Okay, let's unpack this. In today's hyper-connected digital world, you've probably noticed a huge shift in how businesses handle cybersecurity.
Definitely.
It's no longer just about, stopping a breach. It's about proving you're doing everything you can to stay secure. Often that means following, well, a whole bunch of regulations and standards.
Yeah, it can feel pretty dizzying.
But what does this really mean for the companies managing our digital lives, the managed service providers, or MSPs? Today, we're taking a deep dive into the key U.S. compliance frameworks that MSPs really need to focus on for 2025.
Right.
Our mission here is simple. Cut through the jargon, pinpoint the frameworks that matter most, and help you understand why they're important. Whether you run an MSP, rely on one, or you're just curious about how our digital world is, well, kept safe.
It's true, the stakes have never been higher, really. Compliance isn't just a tick box exercise anymore.
Not at all.
It's become absolutely fundamental for trust, for security, for operational integrity in any organization.
So it's foundational now.
Exactly. Think of it like this. A few years back, compliance might have just meant having a list of security things you said you did.
Right, a policy document somewhere.
Pretty much. Now, with the frameworks we'll talk about, it's about proving those things are not just there, but they work, they're watched constantly, and they're always getting better.
So less talk, more demonstrable action.
Precisely. It's the difference between saying you locked the door and showing logs of who opened it, when, and that the security patrol checked it every hour. That kind of provable, continuous evidence is the real game changer. It ensures, solid security and accountability.
And that pressure is intense. MSPs, especially, are right in the middle of this. I mean, imagine running an IT service company supporting hundreds, maybe thousands of clients.
Yeah, the scale is huge.
Now, picture those clients spread across all sorts of regulated sectors. Hospitals with patient data, defense contractors, government agencies, utilities running the power grid.
Very different needs, very different rules. Exactly. Each industry has its own specific, often really complex cyber rules. So this isn't just about dodging fines anymore. It's about building resilience, building trust in our whole digital setup. It's a massive job, and MSPs are expected to be the guides.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just about avoiding penalties, though those are, of course, big motivators.
Sure.
It's really about a fundamental rethink of how organizations handle digital risk. These frameworks, they're not just arbitrary rules pulled out of thin air.
Yeah.
They mandate structured ways to manage risk, they demand strong incident detection way beyond basic antivirus, and they require solid, measurable proof that security controls are actually doing their job.
Proof is the key word again.
It really is. Clients aren't just hoping for help with cyber anymore. They expect their MSPs to actively show tangible, auditable progress in meeting these complex, sometimes legally binding requirements. It's becoming, a standard part of the service agreement.
So we're going to focus mainly on three big U.S. frameworks today: NIST CSF, DFARS, and CMMC. And we'll also touch on NIS2, which is an EU directive, but it's surprisingly relevant over here too.
Right. So if you're an MSP or you use one, getting a handle on these is, well, essential. Let's start decoding this landscape. First up, NIST CSF. That's the National Institute of Standards and Technology Cybersecurity Framework.
Okay.
Now, this one, unlike some others, is technically voluntary, but don't let that word fool you.
No, definitely not.
It's hugely influential. It's been widely adopted pretty much everywhere in the U.S. Finance, manufacturing, healthcare, energy, and importantly, all through government supply chains. What makes it so popular is its approach. It's risk-based, it's adaptable, and it's built around 5 core pillars: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover.
And that flexibility is really key to its success, I think. NIST CSS isn't a rigid checklist of specific technologies you must buy. It's more like an architect's master plan for building and maintaining a secure setup.
Okay, I like that analogy.
So for an MSP working with, say, a doctor's office, step 1 is identify what actually matters. Where's the patient data? What systems keep the lights on? What are the biggest risks?
Makes sense. Know your assets.
Then you protect those assets, maybe strong encryption, multi-factor authentication, good firewall rules, specific technical things.
Right, the defenses.
But if something still gets through, the framework says you need ways to detect problems fast, often using sophisticated monitoring tools, not just waiting for an alert.
Proactive detection.
Exactly. Then comes respond. That's not just fixing the glitch, it's having a clear practice plan to contain the damage, kick out the threat, and limit the fallout.
Got it. The fire drill.
And finally, recover. making sure you can get systems and data back online efficiently, minimizing disruption. And MSP's job here is to be that crucial operational layer. They're not just reading the blueprint. They're laying the foundation, installing the security systems, managing it day to day,
Bringing it to life.
and making sure it stays effective. It forces this holistic view that's tailored to real threats, not just a generic security list. That's why it's so powerful.
That really clarifies it, making the blueprint a living reality. So NIST CSS gives us this great flexible foundation for, let's call it, good cyber hygiene. But what happens when the stakes jump from just business continuity to, say, national security? That's where things get much stricter, right?
Oh, absolutely. We move from good practice to absolute requirement.
Okay.
And that's where we hit the very specific mandatory world of DFARS. That's the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation Supplement.
DFARS, right.
You really need to think of DFARS as setting this critical, non-negotiable baseline for anyone wanting to do business with the Department of Defense, directly, or even as a subcontractor down the chain.
Anyone in the supply chain.
Exactly. We're specifically looking at cybersecurity clauses like the famous 252.204701. It mandates implementing controls from NIST Special Publication 800-171 whenever you handle something called Controlled Unclassified Information, or CUI.
Okay, let's pause there. CUI, Controlled Unclassified Information. Can you quickly break down what that is for folks who might not deal with it?
Good point. Yeah, CUI isn't classified like top secret.
Right.
But it is highly sensitive information that needs protecting. Think about things like unclassified defense research data, engineering blueprints for military gear, maybe sensitive financial info on government contracts, or even certain types of intellectual property developed under contract.
So not classified, but still really damaging if it leaked.
Precisely. If its CUI got into the wrong hands, it could give adversaries a big advantage, expose weaknesses in our defense supply chain, or compromise sensitive operations. Protecting it is critical, and NIST 800-171 is basically the security rulebook for it.
Gotcha. So for an MSP working with a defense contractor client, DFARS isn't optional. It's baked into the contract.
Absolutely.
And what does NIST 800-171 actually demand, technically, from the MSP's perspective?
Well, it's quite detailed. It's a list of 110 security controls across 14 different families. Covers everything from who can access what to how you respond to incidents, system integrity, even physical security.
Really comprehensive.
Very. For an MSP, this means careful configuration and ongoing management. It means making sure multi-factor authentication is strictly enforced for anyone logging in remotely. It means ensuring client systems are patched regularly, scanned for vulnerabilities.
The blocking and tackling of security.
Yeah, but with rigor. And making sure audit logs aren't just collected, but are actively monitored for anything suspicious. Often it requires specific tech, like using government-approved encryption methods, usually FIPS 142 validated stuff for protecting that CUI.
It's 142, okay.
MSPs have to implement these exact things and then be ready to prove they're maintained and working. It's not a one-time setup, it's constant vigilance. And it's enforced directly by the DoD and checked by contract auditors. They will verify these controls are in place and managed properly.
Okay, so DFARS and its requirement for NIST 800-171 is the absolute entry ticket for handling CUI for the DoD. Get those basics locked down.
That's the foundation.
But the DoD doesn't just stop there, do they? Once that foundation is laid, they want more. A higher level of assurance, maybe. Which I guess brings us to CMMC.
Exactly right. And this actually raises a really important point. Why is DFARS a prerequisite for CMMC?
Good question.
It's because you first have to establish that baseline security for the sensitive government info via NIST 800-171. Make sure those fundamental protections are solid. Then CMMC builds on top of that. It introduces a maturity model.
Maturity model.
Yeah, it requires not just having the controls, but also really embedding them into the organization's culture and processes, optimizing how security works.
Ah, okay. So CMMC isn't voluntary either, folks. This is required for U.S. Department of Defense contractors and their entire supply chain, subcontractors included.
Correct. Mandatory.
And you mentioned maturity levels. How does that work?
Think of CMMC like building up a secure fortress, maybe.
Right.
Level 1, they call it foundational cyber hygiene. That's like having good locks on all your doors and windows, basic stuff, essential protection. You're doing certain things, but maybe they're not fully written down or always done the same way.
Okay, basic locks.
Then as you move up to level 2 and level 3, it's like adding, I don't know, a high-tech alarm system, motion detectors, cameras, and having a trained security team watching 24/7, always adapting to new tricks burglars might use.
More sophisticated defenses and processes.
Exactly. At these higher levels, you're not just doing security tasks, you're documenting them thoroughly, you have official policies and procedures for them, and you're actively reviewing and improving how you do things.
Makes sense. And who does this apply to again?
The whole defense industrial base, the DIB, and crucially any vendor, no matter how small, that handles controlled unclassified information, CUI.
So if you're an MSP
Mm.
and your client is maybe a small machine shop making parts for a defense project and they handle CUI,
Then yes, that MSP also needs to align its services with CMMC requirements relevant to the client's level. It flows down the supply chain.
yeah, okay. That's a big implication.
Absolutely. The demand for traceable, well-documented security services from MSPs working with these DIB clients is incredibly high now. You can't just say you're secure. You have to prove it consistently with documented processes and real evidence.
Evidence again.
Auditors are looking for objective proof that controls aren't just present, but they're managed, reviewed, and effective over time. So MSPs are now deeply involved in not just implementing security, but demonstrating it constantly for outside checks.
Okay, so let's recap the U.S. landscape quickly. We've got NIST CSF, widely used, flexible, voluntary, great risk-based foundation. Then we have the mandatory layered requirements of DFARS, setting the baseline with NIST 800-171 for CUI.
Great, the entry point.
And CMMC, building on that, with maturity levels, also mandatory for anyone in the defense supply chain dealing with CUI, all aimed at protecting sensitive government information.
That sums it up well for the key U.S. ones. It's a complex picture, but vital for national security.
But this story doesn't end at the U.S. border, does it?
No, it doesn't. We also need to think about the global ripple effect. Frameworks like NIS2, for example. That's the EU's updated directive on critical infrastructure security.
NIS2. Okay, EU directive. So not directly enforced here in the U.S.
Correct. It's not U.S. law. But its influence is definitely being felt. It's shaping global standards. And many U.S. companies that operate internationally or just want to follow best practices are paying close attention.
Interesting. So why should a U.S.-based MSP, maybe with only U.S. clients, even care about a European rule like NIS2?
Yeah, that's a really crucial question. What's fascinating here is how interconnected everything is now. You can't really draw a hard line anymore.
Oh.
Even if a framework isn't legally binding for you in the U.S., its core ideas often become international best practice. Think about it. Maybe a U.S.-based MSP has a client who makes parts for critical infrastructure over in the EU, like components for power grids or medical devices.
Ah, okay, the supply chain connection.
Exactly. Even if the MSP is purely U.S.-based, their client might have obligations under NIS2 because of their EU business. And that client might then require the MSP to adopt similar tough security controls and reporting just to maintain that business relationship.
So global standards create a kind of rising tide for security everywhere.
That's a good way to think about it. NIS2, for instance, really hammers home things like continuous improvement, real-time system monitoring, and, again, demonstrably documented security results. It pushes proactive risk management and quick incident reporting.
Sounds like themes we've already heard.
They are. These principles just raise the global bar for cybersecurity no matter where they originate. We're actually seeing more U.S. clients voluntarily looking at NIS2 principles because they see the value in this hyper-connected world and maybe even a competitive edge.
Right, you definitely can't operate in the silo today. It's all about raising that bar. Okay, let's bring this back down to earth a bit. Making compliance tangible for the MSPs and their clients.
Yeah, the practical side.
We've talked about all these frameworks, NIST, DFARS, CMMC, NIS2's influence. But at the end of the day, clients don't just want to be secure. They need to see their compliance journey. They need that concrete, audit-ready proof.
Proof in progress.
Which means MSPs absolutely have to provide solid evidence, show clear, demonstrable actions around detecting threats and fixing them. It's just not enough anymore to say you're doing it. You have to show your work.
Exactly right. And this leads to that important question. How do you actually measure and show something as complex as cybersecurity compliance in a way that works for the MSP and makes sense to auditors and clients?
Yeah, how do you quantify it?
Well, the answer increasingly is through automation, clarity, and really comprehensive reporting. It's more than just simple checklists now. MSPs are using advanced tools like SUMS, security information and event management systems,
SUMS, right.
to pull together security logs from all over a client's network, giving this central view of what's happening. Many are also using compliance platforms that help map their security controls across different frameworks like NIST and CMMC, so they're not duplicating effort.
Smart. Work smarter, not harder.
And doing regular internal checks, like mark audits, is also really key to find gaps before the real auditors show up. The idea is to build these robust compliance stacks so every security action is tracked, auditable, and you can prove it works.
So it's really about the detailed evidence, not just a summary report.
Precisely. This is where things like comprehensive automated monthly reports become absolutely essential.
Monthly reports.
Yeah, reports that provide that objective evidence auditors and clients need. For example, really solid monthly reports that clearly map activities back to NIST, CSF, DFARS, and CMMC requirements are incredibly valuable.
Oh, so?
Well, they don't just say, yep, Control X is in place. They actually show the threat detection activity, the remediation steps taken. They provide that crucial audit-friendly proof of ongoing security operations.
Ah, the showing the work part.
Exactly. And automating this takes away a huge amount of the manual effort that used to go into compiling this stuff, letting MSPs handle compliance reporting for more clients more effectively. The end goal is always to show progress clearly, consistently, with data you can verify, meeting and hopefully exceeding client expectations every single month, proving not just security, but provable security.
Provable security. I like that. So wrapping things up, what's the big takeaway for MSPs looking ahead? The core message seems crystal clear. Compliance just isn't optional anymore.
Not even close.
It's truly a core business function now. As basic as providing reliable IT support or managing servers, it's also becoming this huge differentiator in bids, right?
Yeah.
Letting MSPs stand out by proving they're serious about robust, verifiable security.
Absolutely. It builds confidence.
And maybe most importantly, it feeds directly into client trust. I mean, in a world where you hear about breaches constantly, being able to prove you're on top of compliance builds incredible confidence. It makes for stronger, stickier client relationships.
And if we zoom out just one more time, connect this to the bigger picture. By embedding this kind of robust compliance reporting and provable security into what they offer, MSPs aren't just, meeting a standard.
No.
They're actively shaping the future of digital trust. They're evolving from just tech support providers into truly essential partners in their clients' whole security and regulatory strategy. They're helping lift the entire digital ecosystem.
That's a powerful thought.
So the provocative thought I'd leave you with is this. In a world drowning in information, facing threats we haven't even seen yet, how do you verify not just that a system is secure today, but that its security is provable, continuously maintained, and demonstrably resilient enough for whatever tomorrow throws at us? That's the real challenge, and I think the massive opportunity for everyone involved.